everyone, and welcome. I'm Joan Harris. I am a private aging life care professional with my company, Symphony Care Management, a concierge care management firm in practice covering Metro West and Greater Boston. And I have the pleasure today of interviewing Deb Cartisser, who is a senior wealth manager with 12 Point Wealth Management Company. And I'm so excited to have Deb join us because she is going to give you excellent advice how to assist your parents with their financial affairs, when and how to get involved. Now, as care managers, we are always looking for who's engaged with our clients, who's the power of attorney, who's the healthcare proxy, and we make sure that our clients have what they need, that they have these people and documents in place. But Deb is going to share with us critical tips and actions of how children or responsible parties can actually help get their parents' affairs in order. And so I'm really excited to have her talk with you. But first, before we get into that, I'd love you, Deb, if you could tell us a little bit about you and how you got from wherever you came from to working with families and with individuals to educate them and help them build their best financial life.
Great, Joan, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure, as always, to work with you. I have a degree in political science from Kenyon College, and my first job out of school was working for Putnam Mutual Funds. And the first couple of years I was there, it was I was going to quit my job and go back and get a PhD in political science and work at a swanky think tank. And as I went along, I realized, oh, that's not at all what I want to do or what I'm good at. So I moved from Putnam to a private wealth management firm similar to 12 Points. And it was there that I started to realize how much I love this industry and how much can be done to help people of all different types of backgrounds and stories, and to really customize what we do to help them and to help their families. And I came to 12 Points about 5 years ago, and I haven't looked back. It's been an incredible place to grow and expand and learn how to expand what we do and the reach that we have and the ways we can help people.
So in full disclosure, I have had the pleasure of working with you on particular clients, and there is no question that you have long-term relationships, your clients trust you, and you are more than just helping to manage their portfolio or their finances. You really know your clients so well, and you're making sure that everything is in place. And so care management and wealth management, people don't realize, and I hope they will realize that after this interview, how parallel and different that we are, but how collaborative we can be to benefit our clients. So let's start with, it's, as you have said in articles you've written, it is so difficult for the children of older adults to engage with their parents about their finances. And so what are the first red flags for the adult children to look for, to be aware of that their parents may be struggling in managing their finances?
Yeah, I think it's important to notice and to realize that everybody's going to need help. Nobody gets to, age 90 and above without needing some help along the way. Whether they get it or not is another story, but everybody needs it. So I think it's really a matter of, are there signs of forgetfulness? Are there yellow stickies all around their house? Are there stacks of unopened mail? Are there more solicitations from charities? That's usually a flag that they're giving in a pattern that's different from the way they gave in the past. Things like behavior that's different than it was in the past, shopping habits that are different. Are there QVC packages and Amazon packages all over the place? And just behavior that's different from the way it used to be, whether it's neglectful behavior in their person and how they present themselves, how they're dressing, or is it just pattern changes in their behavior? So things like that are flags that something needs to be done immediately. And before that, you're going to see signs of them being forgetful, forgetting how to calculate the tip, forgetting how to do little things. And so those are little signs that are building up. Talk to your siblings, talk to other people that interact with them, and get feedback.
Excellent. And that's very similar to, we often get people a little further down the road. So what I think Deb's point is don't wait. If you start noticing these types of things, then it could be having a greater impact on how they're treating and taking care of their finances. So how do you help people once they identify that there is a problem, make a plan? How do you help them do that?
You know, this is where every individual and every family is different. Some parents are so resistant to this that we're making little tiny incremental steps, and some are willing to admit that they're having problems and that they would love the help. So I think it's having the conversation with the parents and being frank about what you're seeing and talking about the ways that you can help. So whether it's starting to go over their bills with them as they pay them every month and looking them over and making sure things look right, or getting copies of statements to make sure things look okay. So you can look at the activity and make sure that there aren't big expenditures or funds going places that they shouldn't be going. So starting to have some oversight is really important. And then starting to get introductions to their other advisors. Are you able to talk to their CPA? Can you get an appointment to talk to the estate planning attorney? Can you sit in on the meetings with their care manager or their financial advisor? Start to get introductions so these people know who you are, and then start to think about how you can divide up the tasks that need to be done. I think division of labor is really key in all of this. But starting with your parents, asking what they need and what they want, and then advising on how you can help them, ways you can support them.
Do you ever refer people to daily money managers to, take over if the kids are just overwhelmed with too many things in their life?
Absolutely. And often it's not even that the kids are overwhelmed. Sometimes the kids are, they can be in varying states. Sometimes they're not capable of help. Sometimes they are overwhelmed and super busy and don't have the bandwidth. Sometimes the parents simply don't trust giving up the control to the kids. It has nothing to do with who the kids are. It has everything to do with how the parents
Yeah.
perceive it. So it's really filling a role. And if the kids can't fill it, a daily money manager to fill it is perfect and so helpful. And having whatever you set up, having oversight, having more than one person being able to view what's going on.
Absolutely. So what would your next step be to advise them after they start to have more oversight? Because what we often find is that key documents are everything is in somewhat of disarray. And nobody's really clear on what is where or when things were updated. So would that be a piece of the plan that you would want to put in place?
Yeah, absolutely. Having up-to-date documents, estate documents, having a review of them. Maybe they were done in the last few years. Maybe they just need to be reviewed, making sure that everybody in the family who's been appointed in a certain role knows what's expected of them. So if you've been appointed the personal representative, you know what that means and what it's involved. And making sure that if the parents are willing to share it, that the kids know the estate plan. This is the time to start involving them and explaining where things are, what they are, and how they trickle down through the family. And the financial advisor and the estate planning attorney are great places to start and involving them. If you don't have somebody in this role, it may be the time to get them in this role. If mom and dad can no longer make these decisions and choices, getting the professionals in to shore them up and help them is critical.
Excellent. So how would you help families to kind of simplify and maybe automate some of these processes?
So the first step is to start to know what they have. Start building a net worth statement. What do they have? How is it titled? Where is it? And are there debts? Are there life insurance policies? And start building your spreadsheet of everything that they have. And then I'm sure you're going to see places where you can consolidate. So making sure there's just one checking account at this point, making sure that if there's a savings account that's separate from their investment account, that they're getting a high enough yield. So really getting your arms around where everything is. And then from there, devising the plan of how you're going to move forward and with what. Do things need to be consolidated? Do they need to have their access restricted? Are they what we described before? They're shopping too much, or they're giving money away to practical strangers. Do they need to have their access restricted? There's ways to do that in a really nice way. So again, making sure the team knows what's going on, making sure they're communicating as a team, family members and outside professionals, and really building up that communication is so key. And you can get a lot of great advice on what to do and how to solve problems, because if the children don't know how to solve it, chances are the advisors have seen it before and dealt with it before and have a ready solution for the problem.
This is such a critical partnership for my profession as care managers, because we have very clear boundaries. We don't engage in any financial affairs. We're doing that assessment to see if we need to pull in someone like you to assist a family, but that's, we cannot engage in organizing any of that. And I think it's such a point of worry for our clients as well as their families. And I really want every care manager in my profession to know that, a wealth manager like you is a critical partner as we build a client's team. What would you advise a family? We see so many families where there's dynamics and dysfunction. And so you typically have a key family member that parents have trusted. And what would you advise them in terms of carrying that load and how to make sure they're kind of documenting everything so that nobody calls them out for anything down the road, that they can feel comfortable in that role?
Yeah, I think let's talk about a family where they're all functional, but there's personal discord among them. I would say making sure there's checks and balances, like I said before. So that if someone's paying the bills, a family member, that somebody else has visibility into the checking account. That if someone's handling the investment piece, that somebody else in the family has that visibility, and share information. At this point, if mom and dad are needing help and somebody stepped in to help, make sure that you're sharing statements, you're sharing everything so that no one can come back and say, oh my gosh, you did X, Y, or Z. And the more information that you can share, the better, because it just allays the worries and the fears. And if they have access to the information, then they're much less likely to go down the path of anxiety and worry and finger pointing. And if there are dysfunctional family members, this is a good time to shore that up. Chances are, I'll give you an example of a family. We have an adult family member. We handle the grandparents, and they have an adult child who's married with kids, and the grandparents are supporting the married child with kids. And it's not healthy. It's not a good situation. So we've suggested that they break that link between the child with the handout and the parents by putting a trust in place and having an independent trustee serve as the gatekeeper. So it's no longer mom, who's maybe compromised herself, who's handing out the money, and other siblings who are looking at this saying, hey, that's not right. So now there's a trustee in place who can dispassionately work this situation and handle it for the family and really be sort of agnostic to all the family issues that are going on and help them all.
What a great way to problem solve and provide protection and take that burden off of other family members. And so that is such a great example how you can look at the whole situation and figure out what pieces you can recommend to put in to really support your client, which are the older adults. That's excellent.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to remember is that you don't have to be local to perform a lot of these functions. Bill paying can happen with somebody who's living in Chicago. It doesn't have to be local. So if there are more than one, if there's more than one child who's helpful and supportive, share the burden. In our family, we have three different jobs. We've got one who does the investment advisory piece. We have another who pays the regular bills, and we have the third who's the healthcare person. Because one person, just because they're local, shouldn't have to do everything. So think about division of labor. It saves everybody.
Excellent. I want to talk about the emergency situation because we see that a lot. That's often when we get called in. If somebody is taking advantage of someone, or if an elder is getting scammed because they do not have maybe the competence cognitively that they had. I had a client who had Alzheimer's and was writing checks to her real estate agent. Yikes. So we know when we get called in, we know the people to go to who are emergency conservators who can take over the financial piece and put a stop to any kind of elder abuse. And most care managers are mandated reporters as nurses and social workers. But when you find a situation that really needs quick action, what are the tools that you can offer to your families that you're working with?
Definitely calling in someone like you. Through our years of working together, Joan, I credit you for saving one of my clients' lives. So it's figure out what the problems are, and there's different solutions in every case. But let's just take somebody who's being scammed, because that's in my arena.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing that we're going to do is change account numbers, get accounts into call the custodian, say there's been a problem, and they'll change account numbers. So whoever had access no longer has access.
Excellent.
Figure out where the influencer or where the problem is coming from. It can go along, it may be within the family. Sometimes it is within the family. Sometimes it's an outside person. Sometimes it's cyber attacks. So it's really different each time. Freezing their credit is a huge, huge thing. Just making sure that nobody can open credit cards or loans in their name. To do that, you call the three credit agencies and get that put on there. You may have to sign something and put it in writing, but you go through the credit agencies to do that. Restricting the access the parent has to cash. So there are debit cards that are out there where you can load the debit card and restrict their access to money. And then seeing, do they need a trustee? Does the money and the control need to be taken away from them? Make sure that is happening. So it's really figuring out where it's coming from, what you can do about it, and how to shut down the access. And then working with professionals to identify whether it's an international type scam or whether it's something local or an accident. A cyber criminal just got them.
Right.
So, and then the other thing is look at charities. Often charities are ways that people are bilking your parents for money and you don't even know it, because it's the American Red Cross, but they're sending notices to them once a month, and your parent loves the American Red Cross and they're writing a check out to them every month. So for clients, I have a red folder that we put in their desk, and it's all the charitable requests, and we pop it all in there. And then in December, we give once, and we do it just that one time. And then everything that happens throughout the year, if people are calling and soliciting on the phone, it's once. I do that in December. Thanks so much. Send me a note about that. I'll take care of it then. So restricting who has access and what the compromised adult has access to is really important.
What excellent advice. As you're talking, I'm reflecting, it's bringing up all these clients over the years. A client with dementia who lived alone, and we found her, on the floor. She couldn't keep up with all the envelopes of the little check she was writing. It put her in the hospital. And I just feel so calm when I hear you saying we do it once a year. So I think the message you have is very similar to the one we have. Let's get in there sooner versus later so that we can proactively have a really good plan in place and not be reactive to crises that can be devastating financially and emotionally for our clients. I want to say that all of this information is extremely helpful. And Deb, you wrote an article that is on the 12-point wealth management website, Aging Parents Finances, When and How to Get Involved. And I would recommend that anyone watching this reads this article and reaches out to Deb for her expertise and get a plan in place. What I would love is if you could tell us a little bit more about your practice and some of the other things that you do in addition to working with families and older adults.
Oh, thanks. So at 12 Points, we are wealth advisors, and my particular practice is focused on helping women. And I think through the older generations, it's really been sort of traditionally the man's task if they're in a traditional couple. And a lot of the women have not participated. So whether they're in a part of a couple or whether they're single, really helping women to master their finances. And usually they're fairly complicated, and understanding what they have is really important, but understanding what it's doing for them. So working with them to find out what their dreams are. What do they want to create in the rest of their life? What do they want to have happen? What do they want to do for their family or their community? And then my job is to figure out how we set up the finances to get them there and to support those goals that they have for themselves. And really, women are so busy taking care of everybody else, whether it's their kids or their parents or a sibling. They're usually taking care of somebody. And even if you're just taking care of yourself, that's plenty to keep you more than busy. And I think we're preconditioned to just keep running and run as fast as we can. And we tend to put ourselves and our concerns last. And so my job and my focus is really to help those concerns be front and center and help them look over their landscape. And I figure out where the holes are in the floor that they may not even be aware of, and then prioritizing how we shore those up to get them in a financial house that's steady and stable.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, it's really what can they achieve? And usually it's a much bigger vision than what they started with. And that's really gratifying, is watching these women soar because they know they can.
That's amazing. I love that. And there's so much passion in that, and you get so much satisfaction from working with your clients and making sure that whatever they choose to do is sustainable. And this is a very robust partnership that you built with them. So many parallels with care management and wealth management. And you've given so much great information. I thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today. And I'm going to do my best to get this information out there, because I think there's a lot of families that are worrying and struggling with so many of the different pieces of taking care of their aging parents, and having someone like you as a member of their team to really provide your expertise will be so helpful to them. So thank you so much.
Joan, thank you as always. It is wonderful to work with you. And you know, what we do and what we do together is about so much more than money.
It's true. It is. It's wonderful. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Joan.